These are the types of players that fit us and the characteristics that allow them to be successful. OKGs, our kind of guys.
Great to be joined today on the OKG podcast by Nate Johnson. Played for Xavier for a couple of seasons back in 2021, 2022 seasons. So, Nate, it's good to see you. And as I start every OKG episode, I give you the opportunity to tell Xavier fans that are listening to this where you are right now and what you've been up to since the last time you wore a Xavier uniform.
Well, one, it's good to hear from you guys again, but yeah, man, it's been a journey so far. After winning the NIT with the guys, I immediately went back home and started training, prepping for NBA draft that summer, and that was a cool experience. I was out in Chicago for like a good week or something, and that was a good experience as well. Learned a lot. And then after that, I went to my first year overseas in Romania and a city called Constanța. And it was pretty good rookie year, good experience, learned a lot. And now my second year, I'm in St. Quentin, France, which is about an hour and a half north of Paris. So, and they're in First Division France, so Pro A. So this is definitely a good experience, always playing against good competition.
Nate, what would you say looking back at your time at Xavier? I mean, between coming to Xavier during the COVID year and then the way that it finished winning the NIT and everything with a crazy ending to that season, what are some of the things that stick out about your time in a Xavier uniform?
One, just the dedication and just like not just the city, not just the school, but just like everybody was dedicated to Xavier, and it was fun to be around. I haven't really been around that much in college, but yeah, just the first year playing during that COVID season with dogs and pets as the fans and stuff, that was a good experience. But then to actually see the fans come into the stadium and just pack out every home game, man, that was an incredible feeling. And
we had Adam Kunkel on last week's episode, and he was talking about that too. Coming in, transferring into the program, and such a kind of surreal experience.
Mm-hmm. No, for real, it was just, man, the fans are dedicated, and they make every game exciting, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I remember is you're one of a few guys that every time you shot it, I thought it was going in. And Xavier actually has a guy right now that I sort of feel the same way, Quincy Oliveri.
Oh yeah.
Do you still watch Xavier games, or are you keeping up with the program? Trying to? I know it's probably hard. I think you're 6 hours ahead of us over there.
Yeah. It's hard to catch the live games. I try every now and then, but it's hard to catch the live games. But I'm always watching the reruns and just checking out the teams, see how they're doing. And yeah, no, Q can really shoot it, man. He surprised me this year. Glad to see him shine.
Nate, you spent 3 seasons at Gardner-Webb before transferring to Xavier. I'm curious, what drew you to Xavier when you decided to transfer?
Well, basically just I feel like I was a key component to what they needed. They the season before, they still was really telling me about how we really need shooting, we need shooters, blah blah blah. So I'm like, hey man, that's the perfect fit for me. And just like I was just doing my own research and just seeing how the games were, how the players were before, and they always been successful. So I'm like, yeah, I think this is the best fit for me.
How different is professional basketball overseas from maybe what you experienced in college at Xavier?
Definitely way more physical. I think that's a European thing, but they let a lot of stuff go. But you just got to adapt to it and just adapt to it. But and then you can really go from like an experienced team to like an inexperienced team, which is fine. Like the last year, I had a lot of older guys. I was playing with like guys in their 30s, families and stuff, and wives. And this year, I'm kind of like the third oldest guy at only 25. So it's like we got a young team, but we're still good and talented. But it's just a big difference of like how you can go from one team to another like that.
What are some of the biggest challenges you faced playing overseas? Adam last week was talking about the language barrier, and what he had to do when he was playing, like traveling through Russia and everything else, and having to use Google Translate. Have you run into things that maybe you didn't expect playing overseas?
Oh yeah, for sure. Google Translate is definitely my best friend, but in the city that I'm staying in, they definitely speak a lot more French than they do English. So that's pretty tough. But I usually have a French teammate with me or something that'll help me translate. But no, the language, but and then sometimes even coach when he's pissed off, he'll go from because his English is okay, it's pretty good, but he'll go from English to French real quick, and I'm just like I don't know what's going on, but it's a good experience at the
end. He's mad at you, but you don't know what he's mad at you for.
No, yeah, for sure.
I think you've also endeared yourself to Xavier fans because you're one of the guys who's made it an effort to come back and play in TBT and things like that. So how did that happen? Because I know sometimes the overseas, like, when does your season end? And is it just a situation where it lines up and it allows you to come back and participate in that?
Yeah, I believe last year it definitely lined up way better for me because I had maybe a month or so in between, maybe two. But this year, I think it's going to be a little harder because they say that France has the longest season in Europe, and our team's doing pretty good. So it's looking like we can, make a little run in playoffs. So I'm not too sure about the TBT this year, but who knows? You never know. But definitely, I love coming back and just playing in Centos again, or just playing in front of friends and family. It's just always fun playing back home in Centos or Cincinnati.
Nate, I know I'm really curious to hear when you talk about the NIT run. And I think a lot of Xavier fans look at that NIT run. And I know you weren't a part of the Sweet 16 team last year, but it felt like that that NIT run really kind of pushed that team forward, the guys that came back and were able to come back and make that Sweet 16 the next year. It was like a really good launching point for that team, and you were a part of that, and to go through the coaching change and everything else that happened during that NIT, I just would love to hear your thoughts about that 3-week period between the end of the regular season, going to Madison Square Garden and what happened there, and then going on to go back to Madison Square Garden a couple of weeks later and win the NIT.
Yeah, it really showed our guys' toughness, man, to be able to endure coaches changes at the end of the year like that and still be able to prevail. But I believe that's another reason why the guys next year, because basically you almost had the same team, but add a couple more guys to it. But I feel like that just encouraged them, like, hey, man, if we could do that at the end of the year, go through that, like we could go through anything really. And they really showed it that next year. But back to that Madison Square Garden situation, I feel like that was, pretty tough at the beginning because you're just like, oh man, we making changes, like blah blah blah. But we never really put our head down. We just hey, we got to do what we got to do, and I feel like that's the reason we played so hard towards the end and made that run in the NIT.
Honestly, I love that you got to go out with, no one is like excited to be in the NIT. I think you guys made the most of your opportunity. And for you in particular, I think people probably remember what happened the year before where you guys were rolling along, you were playing well, you were winning games, and the season really changed, in my opinion, when you got hurt. And, I think after you went down, you guys lost like 6 of your last 8 or something like that to miss the NCAA tournament, and then to come back and to have the next season sort of end the way that it ended. But you got to go out at Xavier winning your last game. And I thought it was fitting for a guy like you who really gave everything to the program that you had. So I know that's not really a question. That's just me appreciating your journey and being happy that it ended with a win for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that too, man. But yeah, man, that was tough that first year going out like that, man, because it was really hard just sitting on the sideline, can't really do much but encourage the guys. But like you said, though, just that next year at least, and then like you said, no one's really like excited about playing NIT, but at least we won the last game, get to go out a champion, so that was better than nothing.
Nate, just my last question. I'd love to know, going forward in your career, something that we've asked a lot of these guys is, is coaching something that interests you down the line? Is staying in this game as long as you can? Or is this a situation where you say to yourself, well, Paul, I want to play for a while, but if the professional life takes over in a few years, then so be it?
Yeah. Coaching's definitely been in the back of my mind. I try not to think about it over playing, of course, but it's definitely. I feel like it could be in the near future, but not sure like where to start. Like if I want to do high school, college, whatever. But just it's always there. It's always in my mind. I'm always thinking about it every now and then, and yeah.
Nate, I know you never got to play for Sean Miller. He took over after you left the program, and this is obviously you might be wondering what OKG, what does it mean, blah blah blah, but it means our kind of guy, and that's basically Sean's premise for recruiting, bringing guys into the program. And we thought, even though you didn't play for him, I think like even Sean Miller would agree you're an OKG. So I just wanted to throw that out there and explain what it is to you and why it's important and why we wanted to have you on the show.
Well, I appreciate that, and yeah, that's real creative too. I was wondering about that, but knowing Sean, I knew him because he actually recruited me before I went to Xavier when he was at Arizona. So we had a few conversations prior to that and after my season when he came to the school, and he's definitely a good guy. I'm glad to see him thriving at Xavier, and I'm lucky for those guys for them to be under him.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, Nate, we appreciate you taking a few minutes here to talk to us on the podcast, and hopefully we get a chance to see you around Cintas at some point sometime soon. Best of luck with everything.
Appreciate that. Will do.
All right.
See you, Nate.
See you guys.